Your full name.
My full name, yes.
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 And your date of birth?
Birth, yes.
So what's your full name?
My full name is Genevieive Payne Benson.
Okay. And can you spell your name for me?
Genevie. Payne, Payne. Benson, Benson.
Okay. And so what was your date and place of birth?
December the 22nd, 1927.
Okay. And where? Where were you born?
Nacimiento, Coahuila, Mexico. Nacimiento.
Okay.
Coahuila, Mexico. Yes.
I see. Were you born in a hospital or was
I was born at home.
Okay.
With a midwife. My mother never had a doctor. She had 12 children and never had a doctor with them. I was born, my tia Panchita.
She was the midwife?
She was the midwife. She was the partera, la señora partera. My daddy's aunt.
I see. Did she deliver a lot of babies around there?
You know what?
Did she?
Oh, yeah. Oh, Lord, yes. She delivered the whole nacimiento. Because all poor people know to have children.
Well, fair
And
enough.
my mother it was 5 o'clock in the morning, my mother said, when I was born. My daddy wasn't at home. He was having a parranda. He was celebrating Christmas. So she asked the lady across the street, which was married to my first cousin, Valentina, married to my cousin Baltasar. And she went and called the midwife and told her that my mama was getting sick. I guess it was time for the baby. And my daddy wasn't there. So I was born around 5 o'clock that morning. So my daddy, he came home. When he come home, he said he didn't see no fire coming out the stove. The kitchen was cold. Everybody was still asleep. He said, "Oh, está la vieja enojada conmigo." He thought my mother was so upset with him because he stayed out all night. Well, all they were doing is having a celebration, parranda, in Mexico. There wasn't nothing else to do. But he would get up, he was a man, he would get up next morning, he'd drink, go out and party, come home and go to work all day. So he came home and he met Tia Panchita, and she said, "No, mijito, no, son, don't be mad. You have a daughter, you have a little girl." And my daddy said, "Oh," and it was this lady that he was really in love with. This Mexican lady, and my daddy loved women, sure. And so, named Nympha. He said, "Oh, mi Nympha, I'm going to name after Nympha." And that was my name. That's my name in Mexico.
So you have a different Spanish name. So what is the Spanish name?
Nympha Valdez.
Nympha Valdez.
Valdez. That's what they put on my birth certificate. I have my birth certificate. I didn't bring my birth certificate with me.
Okay.
And that's my name, and he named me. And that's my name, Nympha Valdez.
Well, so how did you get the Genevieve name? Was that
my mother's sister? Older sister. She's the one like that name, Genevieve. She said, "Well, her name's gonna be Genevieve in English. We're gonna call her Genevieve." And my daddy said, "Well, I call her Nympha." So Nympha was on the birth certificate. Well, that's what I have on my birth certificate. So that's the way it goes in my family.
So what do you consider your ethnic or racial background to be? Or how would you describe your family's ethnic or racial background?
Like what, black or white or what? Or what?
You tell me.
To me, black.
Okay.
Yes, to me, black. They call us over there de color negro. Well, that word did not offend me. Esa palabra no me ofendía a mí. I really did negra. Because my mother say when they call us negro or whatever they call the word in, negro, tell them in a good one. And that's what I was. And that's what I am. When they used to tell me, we went to school. I went to school a while in Mexico. And I would always get in fight, children. And they, esa negra. I said, yes, Negra no niego mi color. Entre la perla y la concha, la morena es la mejor. I would tell them that. So they would leave me alone. Yes. So that's the way I came up.
I see.
I could just go on with my life. Yes.
So did you grow up your whole life in Mexico? Your
Yes,
younger
I
life?
grew up. I was about 9 or 10 years old. We came to Bracketville.
Okay.
You know my grandmother. My grandmother, Rena July, lived in Bracketville, my daddy's mother. So my daddy decided someone to stay with my grandmother because she's had arthritis. And I'm the one. That's me. I stay. I stay with my grandmother. And I want to learn English. I want to learn how to read and write English. So I did. I stayed with my grandmother and I started going to school in Bracketville. And quite natural, I went to school and my language, my English was all broken. And children would make fun of me. No one didn't want to talk to me. No one didn't want to play with me. Oh, they would make fun of me. Oh, that old Mexico bread, what they would call me, old Mexico corn-fed, Seminole. And I would just, but I kept going. And Dub Warrior, he's here today. He's the one would always tell me, why don't y'all leave that girl alone? She don't bother y'all. Oh, in Mexico. I hated to go to school next day, but I wanted to learn English. And I went to the show in Bracketville, and we had to go sit upstairs. And my favorite song, my favorite cowboy was Gene Autry. He was young, and I loved to hear him sing. I said, they asked me, what you did Sunday evening? Saturday. Where did you go? I went to the show. What am I being? I went to the show. Who do you see? I went to see that cowboy, Gene Autry, sing Back Up in the Saddle. And they would make fun of me. And some of the children would call me Back Up in the Saddle. Where you been today? Where you going next Saturday? You going to see Back Up in the Saddle? I love to hear him. Gene Autry would sing that Back in the Saddle again. And I love that song. And that was my favorite cowboy. And they would make fun of me. And then sometimes I'll just sit and cry. I go behind the building and I would cry. Children would make fun of me and they would laugh and talk. But I got used to it. I just got used to it. I didn't care no more. They would make fun of me. They never see me on the street. Hey, back up in the saddle. But I went right on. That made me strong. All things like that. They made me strong. I just kept going. And I kept going to school. I went to school first to the 11th grade. No, 11th grade, to the 2nd grade. And then I came back again. And I went to the 3rd grade. And my teacher, she had patience with me. Mrs. Harris was my first grade teacher. It's Ozola Harris. And she would keep me like today after recess. She said, Genevieve, you can't go after recess today. So she could help me with my words. Because I would read, but my words were all broken and all that, and they would laugh at me. I would read, yeah, I know, and they would just and children, they would just giggle and make fun of me and all that. I went through quite a bit. I hated sometimes to go to school. Next day they would make fun of me, but it didn't bother me. I just went right on. And those things made me strong, what I am today. And I'm still going.
I can see
but I
that.
went on back to Mexico, and then I decided I wanted to come back again to go to the 3rd grade. I had another teacher. It wasn't Miss Harris. It was another teacher. And she had patience with me. She had patience with me. And so I did. I read, and I would read, and I learned to read and write in English, and I liked it because that was my language. And then I was in Mexico. When we were in Mexico going to school, we go to school Mexicans, not Mexican. We would learn how to read and write. Well, sometimes, quite naturally, they're going to call you negra and all that. And then I got to thinking, I said, well, what is this world? I don't fit in with the Mexicans. I don't fit in with my own race. Where do I fit to go? But those things did not bother me. I just kept. It made me strong. And that's what I tell my children, what I went through. I have 6 boys and 2 girls. And so I went through, y'all didn't go what I went through, but it made me strong. So the boy, he really did help me. He would always tell the children to leave me alone. Y'all leave that girl alone. Genevieve, your name, your name. Oh yeah, my name is Genevieve. Or don't pay that attention. He would say, they're crazy. Don't pay no attention. You just go right on. I said, yes, I want to learn English. That's what I'm here with my grandma. That's what I'm here in Texas. And I would cry sometime, and I just went right on.
Why was it so important to you to learn English?
Because I wanted to learn English, so I liked United States. I didn't want to go back to Mexico and work in the cornfield. I didn't want to go back in that hot sun and work out in the cornfield in the summertime. Oh, we work hard over there. I mean, we work hard. And in May, that's when the wheat start. Oh my goodness, cutting that wheat and all that. We would work all day long until the sun go down on bean and tortillas and water. And sometimes we had cornbread. We take for lunch, things like that. And I wanted to learn English. I wanted to come back to the United States again. So then I came back again, and we would go and come. That's the way I was. Then the third time I came back, well, my mother said I was growing up too fast. She didn't want, that's when, in 1942, World War II, that's when the soldiers, and she told me, be careful, and all. Well, I didn't. I was too young in a way. I didn't go out with no soldiers. I didn't go out. I was 15. When I was 16, I didn't date no one. It was one boy I was really liking, the boy I know him, that was Robert Kivett. He lives in San Antonio now. I had a crush on him, but he didn't like me. That's the only boy I had a crush on. And I came back and I stayed with my grandmother a while, then I go back, and that's the way we was, back and forth, Mexico. My grandmother died in 1945. She died in 1945. So I went back to Mexico. Then my 2 older sisters, they came to live in Bracketville. And then we live in Del Rio.
What do you remember about your grandmother?
My grandmother, she was awful good. She was. But she had her pick. She loved my older sister. She was always my older sister. I don't know, but she loved my older sister. She always had her pick. My older sister, Lorene, and my older brother, and Fred, this one that's here. You know, but she would always say I was dumb, and she would always try to learn me. And she learned me how to cook, and she would learn me. I learned quite a bit from my grandmother. How to make up a bed and things like that. She's dead and gone. I love my grandmother, but it was for my own good, like she told me. Someday, Genevieve, you might marry and have children or have a husband. You ain't worth nothing, and you might have to get out and make a living. I said to myself, I ain't gonna never marry. Who's gonna marry me? My grandmother, I'll have children, and I might have to make a living for my children. And she was right. She's dead and gone, but she was right. I married this man, didn't meet him but about 2 weeks. And he lied to me and told me what all he had. That's my husband. This one here. This is the one. Told me he had a ranch. He was working out on a ranch, and he loved ranch work. He was a cowboy. He had a pickup, driving a nice little pickup, and it was his boss man pickup. He told me all that, and I thought that was his pickup. And he had a ranch, and he had a few head of cows on his ranch, and he had a whole lot of goats and sheep and all that. And all that was the boss man. He didn't have nothing. See, what a dumb, 19 years old. What a dummy I was.
That happened.
Married him May the 8th, 1947.
1947.
I hate that year. When I got married. I got married. We got married. I met him at the courthouse, and we got married. Eloped. Met him at the courthouse and got married. And my parents was in Mexico. And when my mother came to get me, well, I was already married, but I didn't want to tell no one. So finally, she had to know that I was married to him, and oh, that showed it hurt the whole family. My brother Fred, he cried. because me and him was close, but we always fight. So I guess, and I couldn't go back to Mexico. We married. We had our first baby the next year, 1948, which is this one.
Okay.
And that's all he gave me of children.
Oh, really?
And then we started out with a boy and a girl, and the next year I had a girl. That's my oldest daughter. She lives in that's his mother. That's my oldest daughter. Here she is, Lucinda.
I see.
And that's my oldest daughter. And I had a boy and a girl. And then the next year, the next few years, then I had this one. I wish he was here. He's a Buffalo Soldier, Albert.
I see.
He's with the Buffalo Soldiers in Oklahoma. He lives in Vernon, Texas. And then I had another girl, and then I had a girl. This is Hannah. That's my fourth child, Anna Marie. I don't have two girls, but 6 boys. And then in 1955, yes, I started having. I had this one, Marty. Yes, boy. Been born in 1955, December 29th. September. And then 58, Tim. He's a devil. I wish he could have took that shirt off. And then this is Kenny, John Kennedy. He was born in February. And then this is my youngest one, Roy. That's my youngest. That's my baby now. He's 40-something years old. 40? How old is Roy? 40 or 50? I don't know. 50? Yes, he's 50 years old. So I'm a mother of 6 boys and 2 girls. And grandchildren. And then after Cindy married, she married my oldest daughter. She married and she had the first baby of 1968. Yes. I was the first grandmother in Kerrville, Texas.
Oh, really?
She had the first baby of the year.
Wow.
And so then grandchildren come along. So then I had grandchildren to raise. Then she decided she would go to nursing school. So I took the baby and I went on with the baby. And my daughter went on to nursing school and she made an LVN. So then she went on. And I told her, yes, I'll keep the baby as long as you go to school, and she did. LVN. Then she decided later on in life, she decided to move to Leavenworth, Kansas.
So what were you doing to support the family during all that time?
Well, I would do day's work, and my husband would do yard work. He was working.
Okay.
My husband would work. Oh, he loved his beer now. He loved his beer. So this is where, that's my husband. Great day.
I see.
That's me.
I see.
That's great. And he told me, when I die, I want you to put a horse on my tombstone, and I did.
I see it right there.
His name is Henry, but they call him Bo, because he was bow-legged, skinny and bow-legged. Cowboy life, he loved that life. Yes, we lived together 43 years when he died.
I see.
Stayed with that man.
Oh.
Yes, take the good and the bad. That's what it takes to live.
That's true.
I loved him. I still love him. Oh, yeah, I always will love him. He's the father of all my children. Oh, yes, I loved him. Oh, yeah, and that's my grandson over there, Ancestor. Ancestor Duckworth. That's my grandson. So that's life.
So it is.
Don't you think it should be?
Yeah. Well, so I got a question, if we can backtrack a little. How did your family end up in Mexico?
Oh, my father, he ended up in Mexico. His mother had remarried after my grandfather died. My grandfather's name was Plenty Payne. I didn't get to know him. On my daddy's side, his name was Plenty Payne. And after he died, or he got in a little trouble.
Okay.
My grandfather did. In Bracketville, way back. And they sent him to penitentiary. So he never did make it. Never did come. My daddy said he was around 4 years old. And did you know my daddy said he never in his life went to school? He never been in a schoolhouse. And so he went to school, he said, and so then after my daddy went to penitentiary when my grandmother was still young, They had just only that one child. So then my grandmother met this man by the name of Jim July. He's from Florida. He came from Florida. He was from Florida. He met this man named Jim July. And then my daddy went to live with his uncle, my mother's brother. His name was Bob. She went to live with him on a ranch. And he said all that man learned him was work, work, work. Never go nowhere. Just working. Then his uncle died. After his uncle died, then he came on back to his mother. He had nowhere to go. And he started with his mother. His mother was remarried again. Remarried to Jim July, and they had a son named Charles J. July. Well, he did. He said he and his little brother got along real good. And his little brother did go to school. He would go to school. He would go to Sunday school. But he was always with his stepfather. Work, work. All his stepfather did is working. Would take him to work, bring him back, and all that. He was right there with his and when he got old to be a teenage, his daddy, yes, he was a white man, owned a ranch in Oklahoma. Asked him. And he went to work with him in Oklahoma with that white man. So he went on to Oklahoma, and he said he went to Kansas City, and he was out in the country working. He would come in town. He didn't know no one. They would bring him in town, he said, to try a pair of shoes on his foot. He sat out in the car, them days way back. And he said he sat out there in the car and try his shoes on. And then he'd go back to the ranch to work. He liked it out there. He was doing one that he knew what to do. So then he stayed in Oklahoma a while. Then when they transferred him to Kansas, he had another ranch in Kansas City, somewhere, he said. You don't know where it was, in Kansas City. And so he worked out on that ranch for a while. So then he said he decided he wanted to come home for Christmas. The boss man told him, yes, he'll bring him to Brackettville. But he said of that money, he never did see a penny of that money. All that money went to his stepfather. Would take the money. He never did see, he didn't know what a dollar was. He'd say he didn't know what a dollar was. When he seen a dollar, he'd, what's this, some paper or what? Yes, my daddy dead and gone. He would tell us sad stories, you know. I always think about him, and sometimes I want to cry when I think about it. So, oh well, we all got to go through. He made it into the kingdom of heaven. And so he came on to Brackettville, and he went to see his aunt on his daddy's side, Aunt Creasy, Aunt Penny, Aunt Molly, let's see, Aunt Lola, he had just about 6 or 7 aunts on his daddy's side. And Aunt Creasy is the one. Felt sorry for him and told him, and so he hugged him and kissed him and all, and told him, I'm going to Mexico. Mexico, he never heard that name. He said, you want to go? He said, no, I got to ask, his stepfather and his stepfather. She said, well, I will. I'll ask Jim. And she did. And she asked him, can my stepfather go to Mexico with her? And he said yes, but he had to come back because he got a job to go back up there to Kansas to go back. When he went to Mexico and he went on, and he didn't know a word Spanish. My daddy said he didn't know a word Spanish. He heard these black people blah, 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 talking and the Mexicans talking and all that. He didn't know what they were saying. And they had a dance that Christmas Day. And he see them out there dancing, the Mexicans and the blacks out there, the color dancing. He said, what is this? This is a free country. He thought it over. He said, I'm not going back to Texas. I'm not going back to Texas. And he told Aunt Creasy he wasn't coming back to the United States. Told him, what I'm going to tell Jim, just tell him I'm not going back. I like it here. He said, you can't talk the language. You don't have nowhere to live. He said, anywhere I could live. So Aunt Creasy had a little land in Mexico and told him, well, you could live on this land. It'll be yours as long as you lived. And he did. So he said, build him a house. I was trying, he don't know what he built in my house. And he worked. And then he met my mother. My mother was born in Brackettville, but she went over to Mexico when they were young, the father, my grandpa. So he met my mother. So they married young. I believe he was about 18 or 19 when he got married. They went on ahead and got married.
And what are your parents' names again? Just, I forget if we got
My
that on the
daddy
record.
name was John Payne. Here's my daddy
Payne.
right here. There he is. That's my
Okay.
dad and my mother.
Okay.
That picture was taken in 1937 at my grandmother's house, the back porch. And do you see that? That's what we used to have our water, get the water cold. We had that
Okay.
sacked around it and keep it wet. Yeah. And that was a dipper. And everyone had a jar or we had a tin can to drink water out. And that's what we would drink our water. That was my mother. She was a great, big woman. She was a big woman. That's my daddy. My daddy was a little man. He was about old work to my parents. And they got married and they had 12 children.
Oh.
6 boys and 6 girls. Sure did. And my daddy said he liked it over there. He said no. And when his stepfather died, he came back to the United States. He came to the funeral and said my grandmother just begged him to come back to the United States and live. And no, he said no. He said, I'll come to see you, visit you, but I'm not going to live. And he said he never would live in the United States. He would come quite often and visit his mother. And my grandmother died in 1945.
Was
And
that
then
a
he
tough
was-
trip to make from Mexico to Texas back then? Or?
It was, if you was born in United States, like my dad and my mother, they're both born in United States, well, they were American citizen. And your children would be American citizen. But it's not like that now. Oh yeah, we used to go on the bus and come back. And I would always scared. When we come back, it would be all right when we get to Piedras Negras. But when we get over in Eagle Pass, I started shaking. Oh my, they're going to turn us back. I didn't know what to say. So all we had to say, our parents, they had it down there already. They had my daddy's name and they had my father's name. And all the children was born. We were born, they were born in the United States, our parents. So that makes us a full American citizen. But it's not like that no more. No, it's not like that anymore. They don't want to even give me in Kerrville. They didn't want to give me a ID. Way back in that time when I got an ID, I took my birth certificate. I didn't have no problem, but everything have changed. Everything have changed. They told me I had to have papers and all that. I said, oh my God, please don't y'all gonna put me back to Mexico? I'm too old.
Well, and so your father saw Mexico as a free country.
Yes,
compared
and
to,
he loved it.
Is that how you felt? What was it like for you to come from Mexico to the
Texas,
U.S.?
to
and then,
U.S.?
Yeah.
Well, to me it was a better living in U.S. I didn't have to get out in the sun and work like in Mexico. But my daddy, he liked Mexico, and he said he was going to die in Mexico, and he did. Bless his heart. He died in Mexico. He died in 1953. And he was just a man, just get around good, and that he died. My daddy had an accident. He died of a broken neck. A horse fell with him, broken collarbone and broken back. And he was around 74 years old, or 75 when he died. He lived 9 days, and he took pneumonia. That took him out. Yes. But he really did love Mexico. He said he wasn't. And then after the family grew up, my brothers, well, they all liked it over here. It was easy. They come over here and work. And they liked United States better than Mexico. They didn't want to be out there in that field working in the sun. They'd rather work for the white man on the ranch. Because it's hard in Mexico. It was hard. It is hard. Sometimes when it rains or something like that, work on them farm and things like that. Sometimes it was hard. It's hard in Mexico. It was. But this is so much better now. But we lived out in the country in Mexico. My daddy he didn't want to live in town. After we began to grow up, we lived out in the country. We had goats. Me and my brother Fred, we would go. We had Daddy had close to 1,000 head of Spanish goat. We had to go out there and herd them goats. Oh, hot sunshine in this wintertime, cold. We sure did. Me and my brother. Oh, we were out there with those goats. And sometimes he would play hook and I'll have to do all the work. We have to milk the goats in the morning, milk cows. I never didn't milk the cow. My dad and them, they milk the cows and like that. He
So
liked
it's just the goats.
just the goats. Oh yeah, better living.
Fair enough.
Yes.
Well, so who's the oldest ancestor that you know
What
of yours?
Our family?
Yep.
Tommy, my brother Tommy. He died. My brother died. Let's see. My brother died in 92. The year my husband died.
Okay.
Tommy,
Well,
Bob.
He's the oldest ancestor in your family that you know?
Oh, that's living now?
No.
No.
Oldest going as far back as you can.
Oh,
historically.
Tommy. I remember Tommy, my brother. And my aunts and my mama.
Okay.
Yes. So
Well,
that's the way my
did you
family-
hear many stories about your great grandparents or anything like that?
Not too
or-
much about my great grandparents.
Okay.
I didn't hear too much. Mama would tell us things. But I didn't, when my grandmother died, I wasn't born yet, my mother's mother. So the only grandparents we know was my daddy's mother, that was Rena July, that was married to Jim July. Now she was born way back then days in Mexico, but her parents then came back to United States. Daddy's mother, that's the only grandparent I knew.
I see.
And she treated me good. She taught me good things. And she would fuss at me and she would tell me, do things right. She would send me to town sometime and told me, give me about 10 minutes to get back from the store. And quite natural, I would meet someone of my friends who run and be talking and all that. And she would fuss at me, but it was for my own good. After I grew up, I said, it was for my own good. She learned me things. She learned me how to make up a bed, and she learned me how to cook and things like that, fried chicken or something
What
like
did
that.
she teach you to cook? Yeah.
She learned me to cook fried chicken and things like that, and how to cook a meat. You know, I didn't know. I would just take a meat like that and just take a piece of meat and throw it in the frying pan and set it on the stove. So she learned. I learned quite a bit from her. And my mother did. Oh, my mother was hard on us. I mean, she was a big woman. And she would tell me, and I would just play along. I would just be playing along. Genevieve, hurry up. Genevieve, do this. And I would play along. Boy, when I see her get that belt, she never did whip us with a switch. Beatrice could tell you. She get a piece of rawhide or get that whip. She double that whip. And then she take 2-3 drinks of water and she get that head rag and tie her head. She gave me some good ones. She'll give me 2-3 good ones. Boy. I loved it. So that's life. Don't you think that's a good life?
I'd say it is.
Sure. That made us strong. That made me strong. And this is my father's picture. Did I ever show you my father? Oh, that's right, about my daddy. He was a Carranza man. He wasn't Pancho Villa, see.
Okay.
That's my daddy there. That's an old picture.
Oh, wow.
That's his cousin Adam Payne. This one here, it's cousin Adam Payne. This one, my daddy. This picture was taken in Boquillas Carmen. He said the revolution, what they call it, was kind of come down, and they were coming home. And they stopped somewhere in Boquillas Carmen in a place, and they told him they would like to have the picture made in there. And I had that over there. That's my daddy. A little bit of man, Juan Valdez. But you know his next name, they didn't go by no Pájaro. They call him El Pájaro. Because they never could have catched him, a bird. They call him a bird. The soldiers named Pancho Villa wanted him on his side. But he didn't want to act Pancho Villa. He said because Pancho Villa was a crook. He'd rather be a Carrancista man. So Pancho Villa was more powerful than Carranza because he had more men. He had more men than Carranza. He said, no, Pancho Villa was nothing but a crook. And so he was a Carrancista. And that's why. And that's when they made that song, Ya se van los Carrancistas. Ya se van los Carrancistas y ya se van haciendo bola. Porque viene Pancho Villa retorciéndole la cola a la cucaracha. Ya no quiere caminar porque le falta marihuana que fumar. That's what my son like. I guess you see I'm crazy.
No, I wouldn't say that. Well, so how did your family obtain its freedom? How did you, I mean, I guess, did you have ancestors who were slaves?
Oh, yeah, my grandpa was a slave. My mother's daddy was a slave.
So how did they get their freedom?
He escaped from slave.
Okay.
He escaped from slave. He said they lived in Georgia for a while. He was a slave. And then he lived in Florida for a while.
Whereabouts in Florida?
I don't know. He said, my mother said Florida, but she didn't know. Saying Florida. And he escaped from Florida, from Georgia to Mexico. He and his two brothers, they escaped to Mexico. And he said they captured them in Lockhart, Texas. That's where they captured them. They had them in jail. And he said that evening, the cook or what, they brought them a little something to eat. And he told them, boys, they never did call them by their name. That's the word they always would use. Boy, you all better eat and enjoy because your master be here in the morning to pick you all up. Oh, he said, Mama said that my grandpa said, boy, they didn't hardly eat nothing. They started digging their way through the jail. Say they dug and said, I guess the Lord was in the plan. They find a little piece of iron or something. And they worked on it until the hole was big enough where they could out. And he said almost daylight, that's when he said one came out and then the other one. And they got out. And just by that time, their master had came to get them. And they found where they dug them out, and he said they chased them. They were chased with hounds. And he said some creek, they don't know what creek, they swim across. And that's the only way they got away. And they went to Mexico. It took them months to get back to Mexico. And they would starve. They said they were hungry. They would go to homes and ask them, they wouldn't hurt people, they want just something to eat.
Did people give them?
Some people would give them, some people would chase them away. Now, but he said they didn't do no harm, they didn't no killing. They were just something to eat. And he said sometimes they would meet peddlers along the road, they're selling something, and they would rob them. Take whatever they have to eat from them, but they wouldn't hurt them or anything. And that's the way they made it to Mexico. Isaac Gordon was my grandpa's name. My mother, I don't know, my mother said he was a great, big, heavy thing, man, big black man. I never did know him. No, and then he met my grandmother over in Mexico, my mama's mother. Her name was Susie, but they call her Suki. That was a slavery name. Now, she was from Little Rock, Arkansas. That her people then was over in Mexico, had slaved. And they got married. And they had children. My mother was the youngest in their family. I remember my mother had two great big black brothers. I was scared of them to death. Uncle Isaac and Uncle Alfred. And the sisters, that was Aunt Tina and Sliney, but they was at line, but that was a slavery name. They call her Sliney. And Aunt Scylla and Priscilla, that's what she named me. And Aunt Tina, 4 sisters, and she had some more, but they were older and were gone. My mother, she had a big family. She came out of a big family, yes. I love my daddy aunt better than my mother people, because they treat us better. My mother folks, I was scared of them. I was scared. To tell the truth, I was just scared to death of them. Even my children. My mother had 2 brothers that lived, but they going, and we would go visit my mother. My children didn't want to go visit their grandma in Bracketville. They didn't like that Uncle Alfred there. He was so contrary. He would never speak to them. He looked at them so mean and don't talk. And my children, no, they didn't want to go to Bracketville and visit my mama because we live in Kerrville, Texas, and my husband would take me down. But they didn't want to go visit my mother because they didn't like that old man. Yeah, and they married over in Mexico. So back and forth, that's the way my mother said it was. They would come over here a while, they go back. My grandfather and my mom. Finally, my mother and my daddy got married, and all they had was a bunch of bad children. Yes, what time is it? What time is it?
Oh,
12.
Oh, is it?
No, 1:48.
Oh,
okay.
Grandma.
1:40, yeah.
So
What?
we got a little time left.
Yeah.
Well, so is that the main sort of story about slavery that would be discussed in your family? Was that
Yes,
story?
and some more. My mother
Okay.
told us.
Well, like what else? What else would they talk about?
Who, my mother?
Yeah.
Or what? Well, she used to tell us when my daddy joined up with Carranza, Carranza men.
Okay.
She had 4 children then. I wasn't born. I was way down the line. I'm the 10th child of my mother. And my mother and my daddy, they had 4 children. And he was a Carranza man. He didn't want to be Pancho Villa man. So my daddy said one time he was living in Nacimiento. And he was getting ready to milk his cows. And here come the soldier was looking for him. And they say, here come that gang of Pancho Villa, Uncle Johnny. They used to call him Johnny. Uncle Johnny. And boy, he said all he had time to get his horse. He couldn't saddle his horse. He got on his horse, and my mother said, there wasn't no way. They had an old fence. Now, broke down fence. She got the broom, and boy, she bopped that horse, and that horse, my daddy got on the horse and jumped over, and boy, he took off. And he said those people see him run, and those soldiers said, ah, negro. He said, you'll never catch this negro. Negro pájaro. He said, we'll never catch. He said he took off. And boy, those soldiers, he said he always kept good horses. And boy, he said they chased him, and he took the woods. They never did find him. They never could catch him. And they said that negro was worse than a bird, un pájaro, and they gave him the name pájaro, because they never could catch him. So he went up the country with Carranza man. He was on a Carranza man. But he said Carranza wasn't no crook man. Pancho Villa was the one, the crook. He was the one would go rob people and take their ranch, their houses and all that. That Carranza wasn't a crook man. Pancho Villa was so much powerful than Carranza.
I see.
Oh, yes.
So when you got sick when you were younger, what did your family use any herbal remedies or anything like that?
Oh, yes. When I was 4 years old, I was a bad child. I was always so active. My mother had gone somewhere and left me there with my older sister. And she would always she had to look after us. And that was me, Fred, my sister that died, Minnie, Beatrice. Beatrice was born already? Yeah, I believe so. She was just a baby. And it was cold that day in the wintertime. It was real cold, and my mother would always boil the milk. I had a big pot of milk on the fire. And I just wouldn't sit down, and I don't know what she told me to do, and I went just playing around. So finally, I don't know what I did. I believe Fred remember. I don't know if he pushed me or what I did. And here I went on in the pot of milk, fell in the fire. Yeah. Oh. No, I can't.
Oh. Oof.
Daddy, no. Up here, my breasts.
Wow.
I didn't touch nothing yet. I got burned, and my mother and them, they never did take me to no doctor. They got this Indian lady would come to the house, Pancha, and then they got Modesto, and they the one would doctor on me. And they told Mama some kind of herb, they call it arnica. And it smelled just like that camphor vanilla. That's the way it smelled. They would boil that, Mama would boil it and wash my arm with it, wash me off with that. And they would, I don't know what else they would put on it. Oh, one day would take the drops. You don't believe this. Some people are telling that they don't believe it. It's a lie. My mother would live and she would tell you. They would take the wild rabbit drops and pick it and grind it up and sprinkle it on me after they wash me off and all that. And that got it dry. Oh, yeah. She used that. And I stayed, a long time it took to heal, that burn.
I bet.
Oh, yeah. I was on, see my hand? Look at how my hand left, my finger. Never did my hand. I guess this part is the one went in. I don't know who got me out the fire. My sister, I believe. Wow. Oh, yeah. I fell into the fire, then knocked over the pot of milk. The fire wasn't enough. That's why when they say about bad children, I was a bad child myself. And so, and when we would get sick, like when we had cough, in the winter time, cough, my mother would get that cenizo bush. Do you see that cenizo bush? I plant cenizo bush. It put on a pretty little purple flower.
Okay.
Boil that and give us that for tea. Or else she would get that another bush, is bitter, horehound. It grow in Texas.
Okay.
The cold don't kill it, horehound. It's a horehound. It don't kill it. Horehound. She would boil that and give us that for tea. We never did go see a doctor. My mother never did take us to see a doctor.
Do you know where she learned those remedies?
From Indians.
From the Indians?
From the Chickapoos, because they used to come and visit us quite. Them Indians. And
down in Mexico?
Oh yeah, and the same way when you get snake bit, the same way. Those Indians, they know how to get it right away. My brother, he got stung by a spider. So my daddy went to the camp, Rancheria, and got the Indian. And he found a place. He said that part was all over his body. He was hurting all over. So that Indian, it stung him right here. Find a place where the spider had stung him by a black widow spider. Oh yes. Oh yeah. We never did go to no doctor. My mother never did take us to any doctor. We got cut. We got stepped on nail and all that. We never did go see a doctor. Nothing but herbs. Oh yeah. Boil something and give us. And all that. Even much when children have the whooping cough. A cough. I know this lady had about 5 or 6 children, this Mexican lady, and they had a cough, and that cough wouldn't go away. So that's what they would give them. And then they would give them, you don't believe, the milk of a jackass. Have you ever seen that? It's just like a water.
All right.
And they would drink that, the children, and that would help them, that whooping cough. They sure did.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. Some people don't believe things I told them. Say, I make it up. No, I don't. I remember those things. That's the way we came up.
Well, I believe
We sure did. Oh, yeah.
What did the milk of a jackass taste like?
They said it tastes a little sweet. Say, but it's thin, just like when you put too much water in the milk. And they did. Oh, yeah. Because we used to go visit, and all our neighbors around there was either Indians or Mexicans. And we played with them. We learned how to get along. We learned how to get along with them and all that. I remember this little boy and my brother and another one, and he was real dark, the other little boy, and they played together. The Mexican, he went and spent the night at these Mexican people's house. The little boy, they all got up next morning and then they went swimming and they washed their face and they had soap, and the little Mexican boy kept telling him, "Lávate la cara." Because they were real dark. That little boy said, "Wash your face. You wash all that off your face. Lávate la cara. Mira cómo la tienes." He couldn't told him to wash all that black off your face. He couldn't understand. And my brother and them started laughing at him. He cried. They made me cry because the little boy wanted to wash all that black off. What he was doing with all that on his face. Oh, we had some good times over there in Mexico. I enjoyed. I really did enjoy it.
So, did your family talk much about the Underground Railroad at all?
No, they didn't know too much about the Underground Railroad. No,
Okay.
not in Mexico. It was in Mexico. They didn't talk too much. I heard it over here
Okay.
about the Underground Railroad. What was the lady name? The Underground Railroad?
Harriet Tubman.
Oh, yeah. No, they didn't talk about that much. I believe my mother probably hear about that. But we didn't. I didn't hear about that after I growed up. But the Underground.
I see.
I know my grandmother, Mama said my grandmother, and they used to live in Mexico, and they were poor, hardly and had no clothes to wear. They used to come from Mexico and go out to the dump, and get clothes, look around, whatever they could find. Pick up old jars, tin can to take back to Mexico so they could drink water out or something. Yeah, they would go out to the dump ground in Mexico, in Bracketville, where there wasn't much, but they would go out to the dump ground, and that's what they would go out and see what they could find. And then sometimes they go work for the white people, and they wouldn't pay them like they should. You know, when they
yeah.
were satisfied whatever they get. They would give them clothes or shoes, and that would go on to pay. They would work for that. And they were glad to get it. Just like when I was coming up, we loved hand-me-downs. That's all we wear. Once in a while, we would have a new dress. Those days, materials was real cheap. And I think my mother and them would buy a little cheap material and make our dress. Sometimes she make it by hand. We didn't have no sewing machine. We never did know what a radio was. We didn't have no radio. My grandmother had radio a long time ago. We never did own a car. Well, we didn't. My daddy never did learn how to drive because he didn't own no car. His cars was his horses, his donkey. That was what he liked. He really was crazy about his horses. His mule, I remember, he had 2 good mules, and that way we named them Maravilla and Coyolo, the name of it. And then he had 2 good horses, and they would pull the wagon. And those mules, he used those to work out in the field. He sure did. And he had quite a bit of horses. He take good care of his horses. He work all the whole week, and then on Saturday, he's there with his horses out in the field, like that. But my daddy wasn't the type to be in a big crowd. He liked to be off to himself.
Sounds that way, yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Because that's the way he came up.
So you said you knew Dub Warrior, I guess.
Oh yes, I met him in school.
Did you know much about the Black Seminoles, or is there
well,
much you could
every
say
19th of June, I remember they used to have a big barbecue. The white people used to give them a goat, but they have to go out there and get a goat, bring it in town and clean it. As much goat as they want to. I remember the Fritters, Mr. Pat Fritters. I remember Happy Shahan. Well, he's gone. And they would give them the goats. See, anytime the Juneteenth comes, sometime they would have 4 or 5 goats. They didn't go out there because, they get the goats, get them and clean them. And we would have the barbecue over there at the school down in Bracketville, where's at the school. They would bring a great big hole in the ground, big hole, and have a spring over it. And things like that. And oh boy, they would barbecue that meat, and it would be so good. All that dirt and all that. And make a big thing of potato salad, and the women folks then would cook the beans and make potato salad. And the men would stay up all that night and barbecue meat on the 18th. And it started the 18th. They drink their beer and get drunk and barbecue and burn up some of the meat, but we had a good Juneteenth them days. Oh yeah, Dub Warrior, he was real good. And he was real good to me. He's still, everywhere he see me. Oh yeah, he looked out for me. Because I didn't have no one to look out for me. I remember one time I took my little lunch to school, and I was going with, and he's dead now. This boy took my lunch out of my hand and threw it in the weeds. Snatch it out of my hand and throw it in the weeds. Oh, I went over there crying, picked up my little paper sack with my little tortilla and bean and preserved sandwich. My grandmother had fig trees, and she would preserve figs and that. And that I would take a preserved sandwich, one sweet sandwich, and the other rest would be bean and tortilla or whatever we had. But I wanted to go to school. I wanted to learn English. Oh yeah. It wasn't easy, but I did. I made it.
It sounds that way. Well, I think we've pretty much gone through the question list. Is there anything else you would want to add?
No, just the pictures.
You do have, well, we'll do the close-ups, yeah.
The pictures? You want to do the pictures?
Yeah, we can do that because we've got our...
Hold them up and then just talk about them? How about
Oh, yes. Yes. Well, first, let me hold up my mom and my daddy. These are my parents. That's my daddy, John Payne and Meredith Payne.
what do we got up there?
That's my daddy there, John Payne.
So this is your father here,
Adam
right?
Payne, yes, the little man.
This is your...
Yes.
Yeah.
And the one with the big sombrero, that's cousin Adam Payne. So he's gone. Yes.
Who
On the left, this is my daddy. That's the same one.
That's her father again. It's just
again.
cleaned up. It's the same
Oh,
picture.
okay.
Yeah.
It is cleaned up.
Yeah. Looks like someone sketched it.
Yeah,
Maybe.
they did a real close up on that.
Okay.
We scratched
Yeah,
up
here,
that
well,
picture when we were coming up. I bet I was the one.
That is perfect.
Scratched up that picture.
Okay, I think we got that.
Got it?
Let's see
Okay.
some of the other pictures.
No, no, okay, let's see who is this. Oh, it's the old bad boys. Those are my sons.
And where was that picture taken?
Taken in Kerrville, Texas,
Kerr.
at my house.
I see.
On Davis Street. Yeah. That's my oldest son there. And there's the other one, A.B., Albert, and Marty, I guess. And there's my husband right in the middle. And there is Tim, Roy, and Kenny.
Somebody's sitting in the background. Who's that?
Oh, that's Tim's girlfriend, no, his wife. He's his wife now. She was sitting on, she didn't know she was going to be on the picture. Yes.
Okay. Got
All
it.
right.
Got it? Okay. Yes. Okay, now let's see. I got these and these and that. Oh, yeah, here's me at my husband's grave. Yes.
Got it.
Okay. All right, let's see what will be next. Oh, yeah, me and, oh, that's my son. No, let me take the girls first. That's me. Let's see. Oh, yeah. Me and that's right. That's me and my two daughters. They both live in Kansas. Lucinda and Anna Marie. Only two girls. I got cheated. I wanted another girl. Yeah, okay, how about this? Can't you get this? These are my two girls that work for the VA. They used to work for the VA. She's retired. This is the one I'm living with. And this is my youngest one. She still works at the VA.
Okay. And so which one is Anna and which one is Cindy?
This is Anna, and this is Cindy.
Okay, so
That's his
Anna's
mother.
here.
That one is his mother. Cindy, Lucinda. That's my baby.
Okay, we got that one.
First girl. Let's see what else. Oh my God. That's me and my husband in the valley. They have an aloe vera
Oh, okay, yeah.
down there in McAllen, Texas. My son was working down there for the state AB, working with somebody. And he took us down there. Mom, I got something to give you all. And we went over there, had some pictures taken under that sign. And it's owned by Benson's, not my husband. When they say Benson, I said, yes, Benson, like Tom Benson. But I'm not white and I'm not rich.
That is a big field of aloe.
Oh, yeah. All this. So my son that's my son, my oldest son. When he went into the service, 1968.
1968.
Yes.
So was he in Vietnam or was he
He went to Germany.
to Germany?
Germany.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. That's my baby. He was a big baby. Yeah,
Big
he was born on leap year.
Oh.
He's a leap year boy. Oh, okay, I guess that's it. And these you don't need these. So my son, you took my son, AB, picture?
We can get it again because she'll focus in. So,
Yeah, I can.
Yes.
This is great.
what can you tell us about the Buffalo Soldiers?
The Buffalo Soldiers, he's with the Buffalo Soldiers in Oklahoma City, Vernon, Texas. Yes. They do quite a bit. The Buffalo Soldiers. I wish he was here.
Oh yeah.
He's the only
It'd be
one
great
joined
to
the
talk
Buffalo
to him.
Soldiers.
Oh.
Yeah, he liked the Buffalo Soldiers. I wish he was here.
Okay, we got that one.
And that's about it. You don't want these.
Whatever you want to be in the record.
Okay.
put it in
Yeah.
there.
Anything you want?
Let's see who else. Oh, yes. I was leaving this out. That's my sister that died.
Okay.
But she died. They showed it follow each other. They were real close. This is my older sister, Lorraine. She looked like my grandmother, and this is Minnie. I'm next to her. She was 86 years old. She died this year. And that's Beatrice, and that's me, quite natural. That's Fred, and that's my brother. John. We call him Manitos. Okay, did you? Oh, y'all got my. Oh, these are my twin girls. They live in New Jersey. This is Tamika, and that's Tamicia. They're 5 minutes apart.
Oh, wow.
Oh, yes. Family. It's all my family. Oh, these old bad boys, you don't want to see these. That's all. Yes, that's about all. Oh, that's Roy and Kenny. And this Roy at school. Pictures at school.
At the greenhouse, huh?
Okay, I got that.
Good, okay. Yes, I guess that's all. Yeah, that's me and my husband's grave.
Where
I
did you
took them
get
some
that
pretty-
dress?
Oh, this is a Mexico dress. Was given to
Okay,
me.
yeah.
Everything was given to me. Something like this was given to me. And I went and had his picture. Had my picture taken at it. He said he wanted a horse. And when I went this time, someone put a horseshoes on it grave.
Oh, really?
He got the horseshoes on for headstone. I said, oh, well, Bo Benson. And my other son, Tim, he usually take him some beer and pour on the grave. Do that. Take his daddy some beer because he loved beer. And there's my daughters. Oh, yes. And my family, grandchildren and great-grandchildren. So, where's I have one with me and Beatrice. I guess one of the two girls. That's all there. Yeah, I guess it didn't come. Oh, well. That's it? No. That's all. That's all. That's me.
Oh, okay.
That old black lady is me.
Yeah, I can tell.
That's me. That's about 4 or 5 years ago. I always wear a hat because I'm always walking. I'm always walking. I don't ride. I don't drive. I never learned how to drive. My husband was teaching me to drive, but he wasn't the one to teach me. So I just quit. I gave it up. Yeah, because he wasn't the one to teach me how to drive.
Yeah,
No, so it wasn't easy. So I just gave it up. So I could walk. As long as the good Lord let me live and I have 2 great big feet, put these feet down and walk and go where I want to go. So that's the way it is with me. I'm always walking.
I can respect that.
And that's why I
Better
always
for
get a
you.
hat. Yeah,
Good
and
for you.
my doctor told me it's good.
Oh,
Said
yeah.
as long as I'm not carrying nothing heavy. Say it's good to walk. I guess that's it.
All right. Well, I think we've reached the end. Oh, did you stop already? Okay, well, anyway, we'd like to thank you very much for
That's
this
all right.
interview.
I'm glad to do this.
Hey,
Oh yeah, I'm glad to do this.
well, we're glad
I
you're
got
glad.
quite a bit to talk about. Beatrice laughing at me.